This is day 5 of my personal transformation. Uh, this is the weekend. So day 5, in this case, landed on a weekend for me. And weekends are always tough. There's a lot going on usually. There's the disruption in the flow of the week. And it requires you to be extra vigilant about getting your tasks done, but also setting expectations because you can't always be perfect. Day 5, I started thinking about the concept of accountability. A very key ingredient to any successful personal transformation is being more accountable or figuring out ways to trick yourself into being accountable or holding yourself accountable in some way. So in my personal journey, I've discovered that there are 3 primary ways that I can keep myself accountable and therefore continuously staying on my personal journey. Now, contrary to popular belief, motivation is not something you can maintain. You hear people talk a lot about motivation, and unfortunately, motivation is something that just doesn't stay with you. If you feel discouraged because you just don't feel motivated, well, welcome to the party, because nobody stays motivated for any length of time. You might build up a little bit of motivation to get going sometime, but then day in and day out, most of the time you're keeping commitments with 0 to no motivation. So you need something else to keep you going, and that's where accountability comes into play. We'll talk 3 things. We'll talk about the accountability to a higher ideal. We'll talk about accountability to others, and we'll talk about identifying clear metrics. The first one is creating some accountability between you and a higher ideal. To me, that's God, because I have faith and belief in God. And this is why the 365 commitment always starts and ends every day in prayer, because in the morning, I want to commit to myself and to this higher ideal, to God, that I'm going to get things done. And then at the end of the day, I check in with that God. This is an important concept. Throughout human history, humankind has always found a way, or has always found themselves in some supplication to a deity. And so this is very much part of our human nature. To deny that, I think, is a little naive. So now it may not be a religious thing for you. It doesn't have to be. I would recommend considering faking it. It's so powerful that you might want to just fake it. I think you can also use other mechanisms, some universal ideal, the universe. You can talk about, in Hinduism, there's concepts there that are very helpful, and then there's help. There's also just the idea of reporting to somebody, so you can even maybe find somebody that will fill that role for you. But either way, this check-in process with something that's bigger than you or better than you or whatever is a great way to hold yourself accountable. The second is accountability to others, which is why, by the way, I do my blogs and these videos, because I'm pretending that I actually have an audience of more than just my family that actually listen to these things. And because of that, I put myself under some, although it's artificial, pressure to get things done. I don't want to fail and not achieve the result because of the audience that I've created in my head that doesn't actually exist. It's a psychological trick, I get it, but it allows me to report to others. Now, you can find real people to report to if you want to, but there's something about doing this every day that has really helped me. I got the idea by watching the Rich Roll podcast. Rich Roll is this, I don't know, he's this larger than life character. And in fact, while we're talking here, we'll take a look at his, we'll take a look at his website. So Rich Roll was a guy like me, in his middle age, overweight, unhealthy, and wanted to change his life around. And so he did. And so he started preparing for a triathlon, and he succeeded in that. Not only did he succeed, but he did very well, and which was kind of amazing considering where he was at. He had a bout with alcoholism, and then getting off alcohol made him eat too much. And so he was really struggling with food, with mentality, with health. And so he overcame all that. Well, now he's just like this big deal, right? He lives in Malibu with his wife and 4 kids, and they grow their own food, and they do all these awesome things all the time. He has a podcast. He gets paid to speak. So I don't have any belief that I'll ever be the Rich Roll type of person. But I started thinking I'll never see Rich Roll down in downtown Malibu probably eating a hamburger, because he would fail this audience he has. So I thought, man, he must be under tremendous pressure to keep up with this image he's created for himself. So I thought, well, this could be really helpful for me. So that's kind of why I did this. I thought, well, man, if I create this artificial pressure. So you might want to consider, creating some mechanism. It doesn't have to be what I'm doing, but creating some mechanism that you check in with others in some formal way to keep you on top of it. Like maybe a newsletter you send to your family or whatever it is. It's a psychological trick, but it definitely helps. The third one is identifying clear metrics of success. It's very important to come up with metrics that will govern your success. It's kind of like a scoreboard for your transformation. Now, it may take time to perfect just the right metric to watch. And they're very personal. I wouldn't necessarily broadcast them. They're personal, and there's something that really keeps you motivated. For example, I have this goal. I want to be a better writer. That was an ambition I set years ago. And so one of my aspirations is to write 20,000 blogs. Now, for that to happen, I would have to write a blog a day until I was in my late 90s, like 97, 98 years old. Then I would get to 20,000. I can imagine that here I am, 97 years old, on a laptop and in a hospice writing my blog. But nonetheless, this is a goal I set. So I watch that number as it increments, and it's gotten up to like 2,500, 2,700 now. So I can look at that with some sense of motivated, some sense of accomplishment. So having that metric, the thing that drives you, is really important. I've had several others. I wanted to finish in the top 10 of an ultra marathon, 50 miles or more. And I did that, which was a tremendous accomplishment for me. The reason I set that metric was because I knew that if I were able to do that, it must indicate that I was at some level of health to do that. So obviously I would had to have been healthy to have accomplished running all day long and finishing, well. Now, I cheated a little bit because there weren't 10 people in the race in my age category. So it was a little bit of a cheat, but nonetheless, it was a metric I set for myself. Now, I have many more that I work on from time to time, but figuring out what your metric is, I think, a critical aspect of becoming more accountable to your own personal progress journey. So we'll just conclude by saying there is significance in having accountability. Motivation comes and goes, but your accountability, getting to your metric, can always be consistent. You can encourage yourself and others to become better versions of themselves by you yourself becoming more accountable on your own personal transformation journey. Thank you.